Hi there. Paul Goyette here again, and I am the founder, one of the partners in Goyette, Ruano Thompson. And today I'm going to talk about our business and transaction department a little bit and some specific questions that we get asked. Over the last 8 years or more, we are doing an increasing amount of work with clients, helping them close transactions. Now, this could be for buyers, sellers, and various kinds of intermediaries that are involved in the transactions. Now, and when I say transactions, I don't mean something where you're selling your car to your neighbor. These transactions are frequently business transactions where one person or group of people or corporation is selling their business to someone else. Could include real estate transactions as part of that, asset transactions, and then a large and growing area where we do work are in various types of commodity transactions. And that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about today, because I personally oversee all these commodity transactions myself. And by commodity transactions, what I mean, it's a broad term, but that's transactions involving any number of commodities. And there's countless commodities out there, but gold's a very common one, various precious metals. Oil and gas is a common one. Agricultural commodities of one form or another. And oftentimes these are international transactions of one kind or another. So in those transactions, we're representing buyers, sometimes sellers, sometimes, and sometimes intermediaries. Also, sometimes we serve strictly as a paymaster or escrow agent, or we will run paymaster services through our IOLTA trust accounts for our clients, where we will receive money, hold money, until the terms of the agreements have been met, and then distribute money in accordance with the terms of those agreements and the authorization from the parties involved. So more specifically, what do we do and how do we do this effectively? Well, first of all, we do a significant due diligence review of anyone who contacts us that needs our help. So I will typically have the client or potential client fill out a client information sheet, or CIS, which I will email to you. You will fill that out, which includes all of your data, including your passport number, a picture of your passport, date of birth, everything else. And we'll do some due diligence and do some investigation to make sure that you're a legitimate player and not a terrorist or cartel member or scammer of one kind or another. We'll do that due diligence, and then if it's going to be a repeat business or a significant transaction, we'll have you retain our office as a client, so we establish the attorney-client relationship. Then, moving on, from there, it's almost always a matter of document production and document review. Depending on the type of transaction, there are all kinds of documents that get prepared. The most significant and the most common one is the purchase-sale agreement, sometimes called the sales and purchase agreement, or abbreviated as the SPA. It's the transactional contract. It's a contract that's between the buyer and the seller. Oftentimes, those documents also reference any intermediaries that are involved. So that's a very common document that we will produce, or at the very least review. Also closely related to the purchase and sale agreement is a document that many of you are going to be familiar with called the IMFPA, and that's a fee protection agreement. And the fee protection agreement is an agreement between all the various intermediaries, sometimes called brokers, that are involved in a transaction, also sometimes called facilitators in the transaction, that have helped pull the transaction together. So depending on the agreement of the parties, the fee that may go out to all the intermediaries might be 10% of the purchase price, or might be less. In some rare cases, it might be more. And then that has to be memorialized in a document called the IMFPA as to who's getting what. And this is an important document because there will always be disagreements as to who's entitled to what piece of those commissions, if any. In fact, many times we've seen the disagreements between the intermediaries get so heated it kills the whole deal in the first place, which is a waste of time. So there's IMFPAs, those are very important documents. And then finally, if we are conducting a paymaster service or an escrow service, there's a paymaster and escrow agreement. That is also a very comprehensive document that describes the transaction in detail. It also describes exactly how how much money is coming in, and it describes who gets very specifically what piece of that incoming money when certain conditions happen. Okay, so those are the key documents that we prepare or review or edit. The biggest thing to successfully complete these transactions, I believe, is honesty and transparency. Go figure. That if you are honest and transparent with the parties in the transaction, and there's a meeting of the minds that the parties actually want to get a deal done, then these transactions can happen pretty seamlessly. You might ask, well, do we always need to use paymaster and escrow service? Well, no, you do not, of course. The advantage of that is money needs to be held somewhere. For example, if I'm a buyer, there is no way in God's green earth I'm submitting what could be a sizable amount of money to the control of the seller until all the conditions of the deal have been met. So that's why paymaster and escrow services exist, so that money gets held by a neutral third party who's under a very specific set of rules, so that money is safe. If the deal blows apart or doesn't happen, or the product is defective or insufficient in any way, that money doesn't go to the seller. In fact, that money is either held or it goes back to the buyer, the owner of that money. So that's why escrow and paymaster services are used. So we're able to help you in those types of transactions if you need help. We get questions on this all the time. I get many, many emails, and oftentimes these are international business people who are asking. We can certainly do international transactions and help on that as well. So if you have any questions, please let us know.